Good day everyone, this is Jericho from the Group 7. So the topic that I will be talking about is foster and promote inclusive learning culture. But before we dig deeper to the topic, let us first identify what is inclusive learning culture.
Inclusive learning culture is the one that recognizes all students' entitlement to a learning experience that respects diversity. It enables participation, removes barriers, and anticipates and considers a variety of learning needs and preferences. So, as we all know, that as we enter in the four corners of the classroom, we meet a lot of people. People with different ability, capability, tradition, culture, and beliefs. But by this learning culture, it embraces or celebrates diversity. No matter what you are and where you came from, you always have the right to access to learnings and attain education. Inclusive learning culture is also one that values and respects difference, promotes learnings, provides opportunities to develop your own and others' generic skills, and it also offers multiple pathways to achieve your own and others' current and future learning goals. So the next question is how to foster inclusive learning culture. So here are the four key strategies for developing an inclusive classroom. First is value what each student brings. Many aspects of students' lives remain hidden unless we offer multiple opportunities to share stories and experiences and connect this to learning. Second, establish a respectful class climate. Learn about every child. Allow that knowledge to underpin respect and understanding. Third is plan for everyone to participate and achieve. Create an environment for students where barriers are minimized and learning supports and flexibility are built into the environment at the outset. The fourth and the last one is take a community approach. Bring your community into the classroom and take your classroom out to the community.
To continue this discussion, we have here teachers' preparation in creating an inclusive environment. As a teacher, we have to be prepared, and also we have to prepare um, our environment or our learning environment an inclusive one. Because in creating an inclusive environment, we will be able to encourage or to inspire our students to learn despite of one's differences. It will be the key or a stepping stone for the students to be able be to feel comfortable and to learn um, in a lot of ways. So we have here teacher must first focus on teaching and learning abilities. Yes, as a teacher, we have to focus on our teaching and learning abilities. We all know that as a teacher, we have different kind of tasks or responsibilities. We are not just teachers, we also have responsibilities at home or in our community. But as a teacher, we must focus on teaching and learning abilities. When we are in school or in our classroom, we have to always remember that we are teaching. We have to be passionate enough in our teaching. And we also have to consider or to bear in mind our learning abilities, because in this way, in focusing on teaching and our learning abilities, we will be able to become an effective and responsible teacher for our students. Next is discover and communicate a personal need for an understanding of students and families of color. So we have um, each of our students has their own different kind of backgrounds. That is why we have this called home visiting, where in fact will be this kind of activity will we will be able to the teacher will be able to follow up or know deeply what kind of student he or she has. So as teacher, we must discover and communicate a personal need for an understanding of students and families of color. Our students came in different kind of families. We have different kind of cultures, we have different kind of status, we have different kind of parents or different kind of families. So that is why we have to discover, and in order for us to discover, we will allow communication happens. In that way, if we communicate to our students or to the family of our students, then we will be able to come up or to gather data or personal information about our students that will help us to be able to know what are the strengths and the weaknesses, or what are the different kind of backgrounds of our students. Next, we have here establish high expectations and implement more effective instructional practices to close the achievement gap. Yes, we have to establish high expectations. When we say of high expectations, this doesn't mean that we have to expect that the kind of student will be intelligent enough. But this kind of establishing high expectations is for them to be able to strive hard or to study harder, for them to be able to achieve something or to achieve the things that a teacher is tasked to that student. So another teacher must implement more effective instructional practices to close the achievement gap. Yes, this kind of implementation wherein effective instructional practices. So as a teacher, we have to practice effective instructional practices for them to be able to enhance or to know what are where they are capable of, or what kind of intelligence they have, in order for them to achieve something that is being expected by the teachers. By this, I say that the student will be able to study hard and work hard for their own benefit. So next, we have here promote inclusive learning culture in classroom. Yes, as a teacher, we have to promote an inclusive learning culture inside the classroom. In promoting an inclusive learning culture in our classroom, this will help or strengthen the relationship among the students. It will help them to better understand one's differences. In this way, in promoting this kind of classroom, they will be able to accept and adopt one's differences. This will help them to guide them to accept or to better understand one's differences. So in order to promote this, we have these 11 strategies in promoting an inclusive learning culture in the classroom. First, examine your assumptions. So in examining your assumptions, it is very common for instructors to assume that students share their own background, but this is not necessarily so. So in examining your assumptions, I can say that this will help students to better themselves, or I think in giving your assumptions, you have to as a teacher, you don't have to utter or say it on that very moment, but we have to examine first as to what we have to say to our students, in order for them not to feel bad, to feel any to to feel like they have been um, judged or whatever. So we have to examine first our assumptions in order for us to um, give important or to give um, what to respect our students as well. Next strategy is learn and use students' names. Yes, in a classroom setting, if you're a teacher, when you call someone, we have to say the name of our students, because in that way we will be able to give them the chance, or in that way they can feel that they have been recognized. um, and using students names, um, they will have the guts, or they will have the confidence to say their ideas, and to to in that way they can feel that the teacher values them a lot, because we know them well. We not just with their names, but as well as their characteristics. So we have to it is also one strategy to promote inclusive learning culture in classroom, when we learn and use students' names. Next, we have here model inclusive language. So, for instance, avoid using masculine pronouns for both males and females. When you use English idioms, explain them for the benefit of non-native English speaker. So, model inclusive language. In classroom, we have also to be careful in using such language. We have to consider the use of our language, because there might be instances that the language we are using are sensitive, or not how do you call this one? Not it is not necessary or not acceptable to that kind of student. So we have to use language that is suitable or that fits for all the students. Well, and also in model inclusive language, we have to whenever we use such language that is not suitable for that kind of student, then we have to explain or to elaborate more what does it mean for the benefit of all. So I think that's all. So we will now proceed to the next reporter, Miss Grace Illustrissimo.
Good day, everyone. Today, I am going to discuss to you the different strategies and how to implement the inclusive learning culture inside the classroom setting. Anyway, this is just a continuation of what Miss Ana Zalapas has already discussed in the previous slide. And by the way, I am Mary Grace Illustrissimo, and I want you to bear with me and fasten your seatbelt. So, for a few minutes from now, we will start the discussion.
Good day, everyone. Today, I am going to continue the steps on how to promote inclusive learning culture in classroom setting. This is just a continuation of what Ana Zel Lapas has already discussed in the previous slide. Okay, let's start. The next strategy to promote inclusive learning culture in classroom setting is to use a multiple and diverse examples. Why is it really important to use multiple and diverse examples? Yes, it is. Because multiple examples increase the likelihood of students relating to at least one of them. Take care to include examples that speak to both sexes and that work across cultures. So, since we are promoting here inclusivity, and then therefore it is already expected or assumes that you are diverse in the classroom and you have different kinds of perspectives and backgrounds and ways of preferences, but you as a facilitator and all of your students will have already the spirit of acceptance in each other. And every discussions that you are going to impart to them, you must always use examples that your students can be able to relate themselves to that kind of examples. For example, this is a sort of example. If you have a student who is handicapped, then therefore you must also provide examples that kind of students will be able to relate their life or to have a connection about a certain thing, about that example. So it is one of your technique or strategies to make your discussion more interesting and enjoyable to your students, regardless of their kind or state of preferences and even their appearances. The next one is establish ground rules for interaction. This will assure that other students are also being inclusive and respectful in order to generate maximal buy-in to the ground rules. You can involve the students in the process of establishing them. You will still need to enforce the ground rules and correct students for the occasional non-inclusive or disrespectful comment. As a teacher, you must always provide a ground rules and also must implement your classroom management strictly, especially if you are on the beginning of knowing your students, in a sense that you are in getting to know stage. Then therefore you must always be vigilant with your classroom management, especially that there are some students who are really stubborn in terms of discrimination or bullying their classmates, especially if there is something that is different in their eyes, or if they have classmates that is not normal, like handicap or what we call having disabilities. So we cannot avoid that there are some students also that will criticize them or judge them. So as a teacher, you must always set rules that is full of respect, emphasizing respect and full of positive environment to your students. So that is our rule this time, is to facilitate our students on how to exercise a positivity to their classmates as well as to the other people around them, or let's say exercise respect among all, in many ways or in all ways. The next one is examine your curriculum. So what is curriculum? Curriculum is a set of subjects, or it is a guidelines or a reference that the college or a certain institution is given in order to guide the teacher on what are those subjects that he or she must be able to discuss or tackle in that semester or in that whole year. So that is curriculum. Why we need to examine the curriculum as a teacher? Because there are certain perspectives systematically not represented in your course materials. A course on family focusing only at traditional families, or a course on public policies ignoring race issues. Neglecting some issues implies a value judgment, which can alienate certain groups of students. So there are some instances that your curriculum is not just it's not into exercising inclusivity. This is generalization, but not concerned with a certain group or with a certain people. So the kind of curriculum is not concerned with what other student must feel, or is there any connection between the students and the curriculum? Is there really is the curriculum can build a sense of relationship or a sense of connection to the heart of the students? So as a teacher, you must examine if it is really suitable to exercise inclusivity inside the classroom setting. Or if not, then therefore, you must also do what is right. So since we are promoting inclusivity here, then therefore, you must still consider the side of every students, in which each student can still able to relate their life to regardless of the curriculum given by a certain department or a certain institution. So that is the role of a teacher as a facilitator. The number 7, we have strive to be fair. Strive to be fair means, especially in some courses with multiple sections and teaching assistants, it is crucial to be perceived as fair, both in grading and in implementing course policies. Perceptions of unfairness can induce feelings of learned helplessness, which are highly demotivating for students. This kind of praise only means that as a teacher and as an instructors or as an instructor, we must not exercise favoritism inside the classroom setting. So meaning we have to be fair in all ways, because if we exercise favoritism, then therefore it can only develop the feeling of demotivating students, because they can feel that they are not belong with our class because we have someone that we have favorites. So it will most likely we always do more attention to those people that we like. So we will give grades to those people based on our emotions and not on their performance. So that is the poor result if we will exercise favoritism. That's why as a teacher who stands their integrity and who stands their words, you must always strive to be fair, regardless if that certain student is your sister, is a blood related person, but still in your field as a professor, as a teacher, as a facilitator, you must always exercise fairness among all your students. Number 8 is be mindful to of low be mindful of low ability course. What is this phrase means? It means that in their efforts to help students, some instructors inadvertently send mixed messages. Like for example, sure, I'll be happy to help you with this. I know girls have trouble with math. So this cause encourage attribution, focus on permanent uncontrollable causes, which diminish student self-efficacy. Instead, it is more productive to focus on controllable causes such as effort. So meaning, you have always not to limit the ability of every student. So don't say that I know you can't do that because you are weak. No, as a teacher, you must always say that I know you can do that because I see potential in you. So it is more on reinforcement, positive encouragement to your students. So everything that comes out of your mouth must be inspiring, in which the students can be able to feel that they are also good in that way. They can still do good in that way. They can still exert effort to be perfect in that way. So that is the rule of the teacher if we wanted to promote inclusive learning culture in our classroom setting. Number 8, we have provide accommodations for students with disabilities. Instructors are required by law to provide reasonable accommodation for students with documented disabilities. As a teacher, you must always organize your classroom by minding those people who have disabilities. So, since they have disabilities, you must accommodate them on the ways of needs, on the level of needs they wanted or they need inside your classroom, because you as a teacher stand as their mother, as your guardian in the classroom setting, because you are the head of your classroom and your students are just a constituents which will follow all your rules. So as a teacher, you must always give a better or quality accommodation for your students who have disabilities. Especially that in some instances, those students who have disabilities are those students who are weak in their inner self, which means that some of them, not all, but most of them are afraid to socialize people and wanted to feel alone rather than mingling with others because they are afraid to be criticized and discriminated by their classmates. So as a teacher, you must always find ways in which your students who is physically disabled or a handicap will still feel the essence of belongingness regardless of their appearance. So that is the rule, or that is the main reason why inclusivity or inclusive learning culture exists, to provide belongingness in the mainstream, regardless if it is normal, ordinary student, or gifted, or having physical disabilities and so on. But the main goal is to provide inclusivity inside the classroom setting. Next is the number 10. We have also, don't ask people to speak for an entire group. Students of underrepresented Students of underrepresented identities often report either feeling invisible in class or sticking out like a sore thumb as a token member. This experience is heightened when they are addressed as spokespeople for their whole group and can have implications on performance. So there are still students, or you can avoid these instances in which some of your students are afraid to speak in front of the people or in front of the crowd. I think this is just a common issues of every students, because one of the reason is they are afraid to be criticized. So as a teacher, you must not ask people to speak in front of the entire group. Instead, you must find strategies that they will find more interesting and can change their principles or their ways of perceiving speaking in front of the people, in which they can realize that it's not a difficult job to speak in front because I can do that. So it is one of to test the teacher's strategy if your strategy is really effective in terms of encouraging your students to cast out their fears in speaking in front of the crowd. So you must not ask people to speak, but let them do their will to speak in the crowd, because in this way they can have the chance to express their side without even hesitating or doubting their potentials, because it is their will, it is their willingness to share their knowledge in front, and not just a mere calling, just like, oh, you calling certain student name or particular student, speak in front, what is your ideas about it? No, it's not a big no, because some of the students might get embarrassed, especially if they are not ready enough to face their classmates, or if they don't have ideas regarding a certain thing. So what would be the result? The result would be a discrimination and disrespect. We cannot avoid that one. So as a teacher, we must be mindful in giving instructions to our students. The number 11, I think this is the last one. We have practice inclusive classroom behaviors. How to practice inclusive classroom behavior? Of course, we as educators are not out to intentionally include or exclude anybody from the educational experience. However, many researchers report small unconscious behaviors, microaggressions that certain students' groups experience repeatedly. For instance, women report that instructors tend to interrupt them more often than men, ignore them more often, call on them less often, ask them more recall questions and less analytical questions, acknowledge their contributions less, and build on their answers less. These microaggressions add up and have a highly discouraging effect on those students. So as a teacher, you must always recognize the effort of your students. That is one way to practice inclusive classroom behavior. You must always be grateful for every small things that a students do just to maintain or just to somehow a see a pinch of growth inside your classroom management. So you must always encourage positivity. You must always talk to them, establish connection, build relationship. In that way, we cannot just only teaching academically, but also molding student emotionally on how to be respectful and exercise the different types of values that they must always do or they must always have wherever they are. So, which means that we must neglect the spirit of microaggressions that somehow these microaggressions has a highly discouraging effect on our students. So, we must do the opposite, which means that we must always give chance to others. We must always extend our patience to our students, knowing that someday they can have the kind of potentials, or they will develop their abilities. May not be as fast as we assume, but little by little, if we are not showing negativity, and then therefore we can assure that there will still progress takes place to our students. That is why there is a steps on how to promote inclusive learning culture, because we aim to let the students feel their importance and their sense of belongingness to the diverse people inside the classroom setting, whether they are gifted, they are just an ordinary students, they are physically disabled, still they are important and they are highly recognized in the classroom setting. Their progress, their efforts are still highly recognized because they are special and they have something to do in order to develop their potentials. They have their potentials in their end result, but the problem is there is no way. They did not develop it because they are afraid, might be, or they don't have enough confidence. And in order to develop that confidence, we need a professor, a teacher who is patiently teaching students wholeheartedly. Just like the saying goes, teacher consumes itself to light up the way of the students. So it is like candles that consumes itself to light up the way of their students. And then teachers are not only teaching academically, that are not only touching children's mind, but also touches their heart, or touching their heart. So that is the role of the teacher, to develop the different aspect of their students, emotionally, physically, mentally, and academically. So I hope you learned something today, and I have here the next slide. I have here I think this is just we are already running out of time. I think this is just an assignment. This is a circle of questions. I will group you. This is the instruction. I will group you into 5, and then this is the instruction. One student starts with a question, and the next student then responds and asks a question to the person that she or he tags. The next question needs to be in some way related to the first question. All students get a chance to ask and respond. All questions must be related to the report. So since we don't have time, I have another class. So I will just give this as a assignment on our to be presented on our next meeting. So we have already groups. I think there are 5 groups. So same group, then you have to follow this instruction within your group. So you have the chance to decide and what are your strategies in order to implement this instruction with you. So remember that we are exercising inclusivity, then therefore everybody is allowed to speak. The ideas are accepted, and we must always provide positive environment to each other. Okay, thank you so much everyone. If you have any questions, just message me and then or try to approach me. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sparing your time today, and God bless us all.
Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned something valuable today. God bless us all.